What's good, y'all? I'm Denova. Welcome back to another episode of Denova Show. Today, I'm here with another clothing brand designer that I think that everyone is really gonna enjoy getting to know, and that I'm personally interested in getting to know very well. He is a Baltimore-based clothing designer that is attending Morgan State University, which I will be attending in the fall as well. And yeah, so let's get to meet him. He's Jay from Kings Move Together.
All right. Well, first of all, I do want to say I appreciate you for having me.
Of course.
Like you said, my name is Jay. That's what I go by. I am the founder and CEO of the clothing brand Kings Put Together. Like you said, I am indeed a Morgan State Bear. Go Bears! Shout out my Bears out there. And yeah,
Mm,
man, just excited to talk about my brand.
that's great. Um, I was wondering if you could walk us through how Kings Move Together, like how it began and what inspired the brand's name.
Sure. Well, I started the brand back in late 2022, early 2023, and this is around the time when everybody was making a brand. But I really got into it because I've always kind of had an interest in fashion and clothes, and I just felt like I already had the KMT name in my head from my previous parts of doing YouTube, and I just felt like I could transition that to a brand because what that means to me is just unity. The main message behind the brand of Kingsman Together is unifying people because I feel like people are just so divided over little things, big things alike, and there's no brand that I saw at least at the time that brought people together through fashion, and that's something that I feel like I had the capabilities to do.
I noticed that like a couple of your key themes was community, unity, service, and freedom, and like how being a black-owned business that's you don't get to see that a lot nowadays, and it's genuinely really inspiring. But I wanted to know like where your name stemmed from, and maybe what the inspiration was behind it.
Yeah, well, I actually had a friend, my dog Kavan, back home in Chicago, and he had the KMT in his name before me. Actually, we both did YouTube together. We would do pranks. We would do reaction videos together. We would do music. You know, just different various types of YouTube videos. You know how it is when you're young doing
Yeah, concept creation.
exactly. So he already had that in his name. And when I started bringing up the idea to him about making a clothing brand and making a clothing line with this name, and he was like, "You know what, go for it. As long as you can flesh it out and make it into an actual brand that people can see themselves in, then by all means go for it." So I really just took that name and ran with it because the Kingsman Together line has always been in my brain and in my head. So when it came to just switching it to fashion, it was kind of like that.
Yeah. How would you describe your brand? Like, what type of clothes would you describe your brand as? What style would you call it?
I definitely would categorize it as streetwear because personally, that's my favorite style of clothing. That's how I like to dress. But also, it really is up to the person. Like, fashion is very subjective, and I've been blessed to have a multitude of styles in my brand. Like, I've seen people dress up in my brand, and I've seen people just wear chill fits in my brand. So, really, I say it's streetwear, but it's really whatever the person that buys it makes it. You know, I feel like that's the beautiful thing about clothing is that it's just so subjective and that you can make anything you want out of any piece.
I saw that like one of your bestsellers was your rugby polos, and I wanted to know like what your inspiration was behind those because those are definitely fire.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that. The inspiration behind those was really just vintage polo. Like I did a lot of research on Ralph Lauren, his old pieces, and kind of trying to make sure that it's modern. But I guess, the main inspiration behind it was vintage polo, and how people used to dress casually, but also you can dress it up as well.
Mhm. How do design, quality, material choices, and design quality and material choices? How do you say that they were? How would you say that they reflect your brand's ethos? Like how you carry your brand, how you show it, how you showcase it to the world.
For sure. I think it's very important because nobody wants bad quality clothes. I make sure that everything is either cotton or is something that's breathable for depending on the type of season it is dropping. But it's very important. You want your customer to have the best experience possible with your clothes. And I feel like the only way beyond the design and the message behind the clothes is by having good quality pieces. So doing research with different types of hoodies and different fabrics that I enjoy personally in my other clothes outside of my brand, and then implementing that into my brand is very important to me for sure.
What could you walk us through the process of like choosing different materials for your pieces and like what goes into choosing quality materials when making pieces?
Yeah, most definitely. I definitely do reach out to my manufacturers, and when I have an idea, and I just ask them. That's really all it takes. You just gotta ask them what's the best material or the highest quality material for the price point that I'm looking to spend on making a piece. We'll just bounce back ideas back and forth, and we'll come to consensus on okay, maybe we shouldn't use 100% cotton. Maybe we should only use 70% cotton, 30% polyester, just so it's a little bit more breathable for people. Because you don't want it to be bogged down and overly hot, so you can't wear it at any time. So yeah, it's just really conversation with the manufacturer.
Okay. Um, how do you feel you express like community building through your designs, your products, and or any outreach that you may do?
Mhm. That's a good question. I definitely do love to incorporate my Unity Man design. I like to call it. It's just a picture of two people holding their hands together in unity. But I feel like it's just such a simple design, but it gets the point across. It gets the point of we're unified, we're one people. There's strength in numbers, and that's the main message I love to communicate through my brand. So I try and put that somewhere in every piece I make, whether it be big, small. Even on this T-shirt I have on right now, you can see that they're holding hands. There's a message of unity that's clear. So just making sure that I have that being consistent through all my pieces is very important to me.
I know this may be minute, but I noticed that like for your website's handle, you chose Big Cartel as your platform, and I was kind of wondering why, like what alternatives you may have considered, and yeah.
Yeah, I definitely consider Shopify. Honestly, I am still thinking about making the switch to Shopify. But at the time when I first started my brand, it's just Big Cartel. When I was looking at it, it just seemed like it was the easiest for people to get around. The integration on your website is very important. Like it should be easy to navigate because nobody wants a website that makes people steer away from traffic instead of going towards their clothes.
Right.
So I saw the templates that were on Rick Cartel already. It just seemed like they were straight to the point. Here's the product. Maybe have a little about section. Have shipping. Information that the customer may need to know. But basically, the most important thing to me was that you can see the clothes, and it just takes you going to add it into your cart and getting up out of there. That was the main important thing to me.
Hmm. Okay. Um. Well, as you noticed, you said that Shopify is another one that you were considering. Could you speak on why you were considering switching over to Shopify, or what the pros and cons of the Big Cartel to Shopify?
Yeah, Shopify, honestly, they have a lot more customization. Like it can be simple, but it's a lot more customization if you want that type of look. Um, but the only thing that steered me away from Shopify, honestly, at first, when I first started my brand, was the price. Like their pricing is crazy for monthly
Mm.
charges. But now that I've built my brand up a little bit more, I feel like it is a good time to make the switch. But honestly, it's just a
Better
must.
investment. Right. I get that. I said a bit of a better investment.
Yeah, most definitely.
I can see that. Your website it promises like for the polos it promises next day shippings. I was wondering like what systems you run to be able to fulfill those promises, be able to fulfill orders quickly.
Yeah, well, I keep all my inventory on hand. I actually just sold out all my inventory, so I got to put in another little order for that. But
Hey, congrats.
appreciate that. But when the order comes in, I get the notification on my phone or to my email. I have a label printer here. I can show you actually. This right here. It comes with a set of the cords, and I just connect it to my computer, and then I go through a site called Pirate Ship. I use Pirate Ship to ship all my clothes. They make the labels for me, and I just print them out through the label printer, take it off the tag, put it on the power mailer, and then they're off. I go to the post office, ship out all the clothes, and yeah, it's a pretty easy system to be honest.
That's dope. What were your biggest challenges whenever launching in terms of launching and growing your brand?
I feel like I can low key be my harshest critic. Like I might look at something for too long, and then I'll just see every little things that's wrong with it. But to be honest, what I had to realize throughout the course of my brand is that you can't be such a perfectionist that it stops you from driving clothes. You have to keep the momentum going because that's what this game is about. It's a game of consistency, and my consistency isn't even all the way there today. But honestly, I've had to get out of my own way sometimes. I've had to look at design, send it to a few other people that I know and some people that I don't even know, just to get opinions on what I should do. Because when I'm looking at it, I'm seeing every little detail. But to be honest, when a person is looking at your clothes, they're not going to see that. They're just looking at it as face value. So kind of just kind of having to get out that perfectionist stage, but also be hard on myself. So I do improve in my clothes. That's something that I really do struggle with, and that I am getting better with. And I'm glad to say that I am.
That's dope. I mean, everyone has their challenges in terms of what they want whenever it comes to making any product. So it's good that you're able to take your emotions out of it and use your outside resources to be able to get feedback. It'll definitely help you. Um, how does how would you approach an issue such as like supply chain, product production, marketing, or even just like being able to network with people as a small business?
Yeah, well, to the first point, I would say communication is very important. You should keep clear communication with your customers. So, for example, let's say I'm running a pre-order. A pre-order is basically people put in the order before I have the product in hand. Like it's not next day shipping. I'm just getting a amount of orders, and then I send the products to my manufacturer. They make it, comes back to me, then I ship it out. Communication is the biggest point in that because people want their stuff next day delivery, like it's Amazon you
Yeah.
know. But when stuff takes a little longer to make, you just have to make that clear. May that be in your description on Instagram when you're first posting the product. Maybe you have that on your website, a little banner on the top of your website saying, okay, they'll ship in X amount of time to X amount of time. Just making sure that you have that clear communication with your customers. Then to the second point about, networking, really you just can't be afraid to talk. Like there's millions of people in this world that like clothes. You can find somebody that has a common interest with you in clothes. So just getting opinions from them, um, networking as in finding models for your clothes. Like there's been people that I don't even know that have come to me about modeling inquiries, and I've talked to them, and I've actually made relationships through them that I can call on for future projects that I got in the works. So yeah, just building that community, not being afraid to talk. And I know that's easier said than done for sure, but when you realize that nobody really like everybody is willing to help you. There's going to be the occasional person that's not willing to help you, but it outweighs it. The people that are willing to help you outweighs the people that aren't. And that's another thing at Morgan. I love the community at Morgan. They definitely helped me out a lot.
Mm, that's cool. Who would you say your community is, or like your core audience, and how would you say that they interact with your brand and help you grow, like in terms of feedback and stuff like that?
I would definitely say the people, just my peers at Morgan, like, and my peers back home. I can honestly say, like, I even ended this interview with you because one of my friends, he actually has a T-shirt in his closet. Shout out to Miles. Just building genuine relationships with these people, and let them to get to know you beyond the brand, beyond the organizations that you might be in. That's something that's very important, and you can build long lasting relationships like that even beyond your brand. You could just have that for your life, your career, whatever. Just building those relationships. Um, Joining orgs, that's another big one. Orgs on campuses, I don't even know how many orgs Morgan has, but I just know that it's an org for everybody. So just putting your best foot forward, talking to people, building those connections, building those relationships, they'll definitely take you very, very far, for sure.
Have you been able to engage in any collaborations or partnerships through your connections that you've built?
Um, Not specifically through my brand, but in my personal, like with my personal content, yeah, I definitely have. I actually got a partnership last year with Depop to do a video for them, and that was landed through a different content creator that I've known for a while. He just sent me the link to apply for it. And I was like, oh, Depop, like this is an app that I buy clothes off of all the time. So it's kind of crazy how life works. How God places certain people in your life to come into your life to really uplift you and boost your brand, your personal brand.
Hmm. How would you say you would approach giving back to your community?
Sure. Well, I'm a big advocate on community service. I did grow up being a Boy Scout, so that was kind of impressed on me at a young age. But really, just bringing up the people that coming behind you. That's something that's very important to me, and making sure that they understand that life is not a one way street. You're gonna go through ups, you're gonna go through downs, but you should one goal of mine is just always to bring up people that come behind me. Because I know somebody's looking at me, somebody's looking at me as inspiration. So just helping them out when they need it, that's definitely important to me. And that's something that's been instilled in me from my parents at a young age and through the communities at a young age. So do things like toy drives, do things like back to school drives. It's just I feel like that community aspect is very important to me, and that comes with the service part of my brand as well.
How would you say you balance being a leader in your community with trying to be a creative influencer and an entrepreneur?
If I'm being honest, that's something I'm definitely still figuring out. Like figuring out times for your photo shoot and to go through your brand and the things that you have to do for your brand. And then on the other hand, working with your community to make sure that you still have the community behind your brand. That's something that's very difficult. But I think it just goes back to having those genuine partnerships, those genuine relationships with your people. You want them to know that you're not just with them to get something out of it. You want them to know that, okay, look, I'm here for you. I'm not here to, oh, put me on this. No, I want to hear you out, see what you're about, and then we build a connection like that first before we get into the other aspects of the brand.
Do you ever feel pressure to represent something bigger than yourself through your brand?
Yeah, most definitely, because the idea of unity, it definitely goes beyond yourself. There's strength in numbers, I feel like, so it definitely is beyond me. But I wouldn't really characterize it as pressure. I just think I get the opportunity to express something that's bigger than myself, if that makes sense.
I really like how you worded that. That's dope. Has music or like film, like pop culture or sports culture, ever played a role in KMT's aesthetic?
I would say in the aesthetic, but I mean, I definitely find inspiration from my favorite NBA players, such as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Seeing how he styles himself, that kind of makes me like, ooh, he got that on. Let me try and flip this into KMT type. Um, so yeah, it's definitely inspirational. Seeing different characters like, shoot, even Nick Fury. I remember my dad sent me a Nick Fury comic book page. I'm like, that trench coat is cold. Now, will I ever make a trench coat for KMT? Who knows? But it's always cool to see the different lanes and avenues that fashion can go. It's really cool to see that.
Hmm. Do you? I don't know. Do you ever? Do you ever hit a roadblock in figuring out how you want a product to look or feel, or how you want a person to feel when they're wearing it?
Yeah, most definitely. I have those all the time. Like definitely all the time because, like I said, I'm my own harshest critic. Like I'll get on my phone about a product and I won't want to drop it, but when I really sit back and I think about it, it's like, you know what? I think this could go somewhere. I was actually having a roadblock with polos for a second because I was like, I don't know if this is the right time for this. I don't know if people really gonna rock with this. But sometimes you just gotta push the red button and say, screw it. Let me see what this goes. And I feel like that risk definitely reaps a reward if you do it right.
Hmm. What's your process like from idea to final product?
Well, I would say first I figure out the product I want to make, whether that be a t-shirt, whether it be a hoodie, whether that be a polo, and then I just look at examples of polos throughout history and see what works and how can I make this modernized. I see what's going on now, and then I take examples of what the trends are now, and then I incorporate that into what I've seen in the past and what's worked in the past, and then it just all comes together like that. Because I design my own clothes, so I kind of take bits and pieces from everywhere.
Hmm. What do you feel has been the most effective way for you to like spread awareness about your brand?
Really word of mouth. Like when people hear about you through other people and people that are respectable and have a good um what's the word? Have a good yeah, my mom just had a mom fire.
So
Reputation, a good reputation. That makes your brand stand out that much better because they're responsible. Like they see that it's coming from this person, so it got to be good. So that word of mouth, just people sharing the post on their social medias. I tell everybody, hey, look, once you get this package, post a little something on social media. Just say, oh, I got this polo from Kingsman together. It don't got to be no crazy promo, but show love because
oh.
I appreciate you showing love to me, so show it right back.
Hmm. Has social media algorithms helped or hurt your brand's visibility?
Honestly, it really just depends on the social media. On TikTok, it actually has helped me more than it's hurt me because I just feel like it's easier to go up on TikTok. Like there's millions of video going through the algorithm each and every single day. And that can be daunting for sure because, there's just millions of clothing brands going through the process of trying to blow up and trying to make, a name for itself. But if you're consistent with the way you're posting, if you're strategic with the way that you're making sure that your product is being presented, whether it be through the models that you use, whether it be through the sounds that you're using, or even just how you're posting your clothes, whether it be a video, a slideshow, whatever. Um, yeah.
Have have you ever had any like memorable customer experience stories or like feedback that reminded you what did your brand in the first place?
Oh yeah, definitely. My freshman year, I went to this pop up shop, and it wasn't even a pop. It was really more so a community event. But I ran into this guy, and the hat originally was like, I think it was $20 or so. And he was like, bro, I only got 15 in cash. And I was just like, you know what? Go ahead, bro. And dude ended up giving me a shout out on his story, and I made two more orders off that. So even though it wasn't like a crazy story, it just shows that you don't have the money isn't everything. You can have a product that costs something, but if you see a person that really genuinely just wants to support out of the kindness of their heart, go for it. The bread isn't everything with this business and with any business, to be honest. So just kind of seeing that and see how he brought his community towards my page and actually ended up getting more money than I originally would have if I said no and I turned him down. That was a blessing in disguise for sure. So yeah, shout out to bro.
Uh, that's really dope. Where do you see KMT in the next couple of years? Where do you want to move to? You ever have any ideas for different apparels, different events you want to try and get into?
Yeah, one thing I definitely want to do, I want to do an annual turkey drive for the homeless. That's something I did when I was younger, as a Boy Scout. But I want to do it with my brand, obviously, because I just want to focus on bringing people together. And then another goal of mine, I would say I do want to have a storefront. I want to have a little storefront back home in Chicago in the city. I feel like that would be really cool, really dope. I have it back where I started from. Yeah, that would be dope. But definitely got a lot more work to do before then.
What lessons from building KMT would you like to share for aspiring creators or entrepreneurs, especially for those that feel underrepresented in the communities?
I would say stay true to yourself. Stay true to your goals. Stay true to your motivation. Whatever your motivation is, stay true to that. If you're promoting, okay, well, I'll just talk about my own example. If I'm promoting unity, I'm not going to go out and promote people being disbanded. Staying consistent with the ethos of your brand is very important because that shows that you're reliable and that you really care about the work that you're putting out, and then that is more than clothes for you. That it actually has a meaning for you. Because some people just be slapping anything on a t-shirt, and they might make more sales than you, but it is what it is. As long as you keep your goal in mind of what you want your brand to represent, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I really like that. How do you define the success for yourself, like for your brand and for the communities that you serve?
I mean, honestly, I feel like I've already reached some level of success just because, I have people that notice me and recognize me because of my brand. That's a dope feeling to say, oh, yeah, that shirt, I made that. And people say, oh, you made that? That's crazy. Like, I didn't know that you made that. That's an amazing feeling because the work that goes into this, the work that you put into a design, the work that you put into getting a sample, sometimes you have to go to 2, 3 samples before you get the one that actually, is your idea on paper because sometimes manufacturers mess up. It is what it is. We are human. But seeing that come together and then see people actually rock with it, and then people spend their hard-earned money on what I made, that's a crazy feeling. So I really feel like that I'm already successful in that aspect, and that's why I categorize as success. People just loving the meaning that I'm putting out and really supporting it, even if it's not by buying. Just reposting and believing in the idea that I have through my clothes.
I really feel like you have so much heart for your brand that it can't fail. I've noticed that with the way that you speak about your brand, you show so much passion for it that I I genuinely feel like regardless of the challenges that you face, as long as you keep at it, then you are going to continue to have a very successful brand. It's already doing great things.
Appreciate that for sure. You know, all I can do is pray, keep it consistent, keep doing what I do, and yeah, it all fall line. God's timing is perfect. I'm definitely an avid believer in that. So some will tell, but day by day, for sure, day by day.
Do you have any upcoming drops or campaigns or initiatives that you want to like tease or promote?
Yeah, for sure. Um, the ladies, I got something for y'all. Ever since I started my brand, people have been on my head. Because let me preface this by saying Kings Move Together is a unisex brand. When I say Kings, I don't just mean men. There is women that can run my brand. I have seen run my brand and do it amazingly. But I feel like it's time I finally branch out and make some Queens Move Together wear. So I'm not gonna say too much, but it's coming. It's on the way for sure. Yeah, it's in works.
I bet, bet. Well, I definitely want to be able to get your. I definitely want to get you back on the podcast to be able to showcase any of the other things that you do in the future. And y'all make sure y'all check out kingsmovetogether.bigcartel.com. And uh, yeah, you have anything else you want to say?
That's it. Just for everybody out there that not even if you want to start a brand, but if you want to start anything, the time is now. Don't think that you can't do it because it's oversaturated or because too many people are doing it. If you have a real passion for something, you're gonna go after it no matter what. Like you're a podcaster. There's hella podcasts out there, but there's only one you. There's only one Denova. There's only one person behind the screen that's watching this, bro. Like, do what you want. You only got one life. Take the risk, take the opportunities that you feel like you should take. And don't be afraid to lose.
Definitely, definitely. With that being said, this has been another episode of The Nova Show. Again, I'm Denova. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and tune in for the peace.